So how many people feel that there's some kind of change coming in the real estate industry, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years? How many people feel? Okay, so we have a fairly converted audience here. I think part of my job is to say, well, what would the research literature, what would past experience in other industries, what would all of the research do to give you some clarity? I've been very interested for over a decade now, and how is that going to impact, or will it impact, real estate brokerage down the road? So this is actually, this survey is part of a group of surveys, started actually in 2005. And then this year we've done 3 different surveys that all address sort of the issue of, do people see change coming to the industry? What kind of change, and when might that change happen? Any kind of change takes a lot of people involved, a lot of different parties, and 2 is, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time. Well, here's another guy who had disruptive change, and his name is Chuck. Charles Schwab. And I guess the interesting thing about Charles Schwab, he had a radical change on an industry somewhat similar to real estate because it involved brokerages. And he started the discount brokerage, and it took him a long time. His first discount brokerage company was actually in 1974. And he didn't make it big until about 1998. And in between there, he actually sold his company to Bank of America in 1983, and then bought it back in 1994 under his name. So these things take time, and there's a lot of change, and in his case, he was in the right place when technology changed. Change will probably look in 2 different directions. One is what we call a low-end disruptor, and the more common terminology now for what seems to be the model is mere posting. So it's more of an advertising service, a matching service that the realtor would be performing on a very low price basis. But then there's a completely different direction, which is the second part of being an intermediary, which is the bargaining. So providing professional advice, maybe complementary services, in fact enhancing the realtor experience. And so I'm very curious where current brokers see themselves going out of 3 directions. One would be low-end disruptor, 2 would be stay where you are, and 3 would be added value service. And when they feel that change might occur. So here's a model that we developed out of the last research, actually, and some other research we've done. We said, well, what if people take a look at whether something is a threat to their organization, or if they have the capabilities inside to make it an opportunity? Well, the easy one is, if it's a low opportunity, low threat, just ignore it. That's just an idea. It's not going to fly. It's the latest idea of Segway. Just ignore it. Now, if it's a high opportunity but a low threat, then you might say, hey, opportunity. We've got particular skills in our operation. We can take advantage of that. We can build a competitive advantage on it. So there'd be proactive adoption. Also, the easy one, if there's a low opportunity but a high threat, if you feel that this change is really out to destroy your industry, then proactive resistance. And honestly, we saw a lot of that. Certainly a lot of that in the US with the National Association of Realtors in the early 2000s. And they said, whoa, we don't like this change, and we're going to do everything we can to stop it. And a lot of the states set up lots of regulations on what's minimum service levels and so on and so forth. Competition bureaus got involved. That's how proactive resistance starts. And then there's this group of people who say, well, yeah, this is threatening, but maybe we can get an opportunity out of it. We're just not sure. If there's high urgency, so if it becomes very soon that the change is going to happen, but you still had bad risk experience, you'll acquire. So you'll find another firm, maybe a smaller firm, that's adapting very well, or somebody from another industry that's helped adapt into your changes in their industry. Say, well, I'm going to acquire those skills. I'm going to hire some new people. I'm going to hire a consultant. I'm going to acquire another firm, get myself up to speed. Most resilient people will try over time to get themselves to a position where they can adopt. to understand this, some of the research breaks down the role of the realtor or the role of any mediator into two large areas. One is the matching process. So it's actually the search. It's trying to find product and buyers or sellers and buyers on a resale basis and match them together. The second part is bargaining. So that's the subcategories are contracting, so actually helping somebody to do a deal. Second is monitoring, closing the deal, and adaptation. So changes happen. People have an inspection, they find something, or hey, that's not what I thought it was, or your very smart brother-in-law comes along and says, well, you shouldn't go along with that. You know, all these kind of problems come along, and you need an expert who can help put that together. And in general, when you look historically, any industry where their value proposition was on the matching side, they got crushed with the internet. The internet just said, you know what? Technology can do a better job at matching than you can. The brokers reported very strong that they're not interested in the low-end disruption business. They don't want to move towards mere posting. Very little interest in that. There's a lot of interest in added value services, and that seems to be where most of the brokers today see themselves moving in the future. And curiously, the feeling is that low-end disruption will not change the price structure, won't impact the fee to consumers, but it will have an impact on the margins of realtors. And you might say, well, how can that happen? Well, it's because of the added value services, and so that's coming up very strong. We asked very specific questions. Would you see yourself adding services in this area, in that area, that area? And a lot of them turned out quite high, so then we can make sense of the data that, no, fees will stay the same, but costs will go up, value to the consumer will go up, and the margins will be a little thinner. Well, what do the people have to say? Okay, so first, let's start with the study that, the research that I did just earlier this month. We have about 240 brokers who responded. Average age participant was much older than this group. It was like 55. And that was supposed to be a joke. Average experience about 20 years, 52% in their second career, which is probably typical in real estate. 76% were men, 68% from Alberta, 32% from BC, which I think adds to 100. Average firm size, about 43 employees. Disruptions will not impact fees. So they're saying that commissions will not go down, even though there are the in-your-face property guys type of people. Do you agree with that? No? Yeah, no? Well, this is the interesting thing. They also say, though, that their margins are going to get hammered. So what is that? 51% say it's likely or very likely that their margins are going to go down. Okay, so somebody reconcile that for me. Fees are staying the same, margins are getting thinner. How does that work? You have to deliver more. Exactly. And that is, in fact, there was consistency in the research. So the brokers said they are going to invest more in areas like getting new resources. Education is huge. Complementary services. Complementary services, think vis-a-vis Henry Ford and highways and gas stations. That might cause you to think in real estate, movers. A lot of realtors are already tied in with mortgaging, financing, lawyers, all the things that are part of buying a home. One of the things that comes up very strong is people see value in a real estate professional. And that's not just the real estate agents that are coming here, but the non-agents, they clearly see value. I think, if I remember, it's to the order of 77% say, yes, it's valuable to have a realtor on your side. That's a great starting point when there's any kind of change going on. So I think those that adapt to the change, tie in with the right complementary services, focus more on the bargaining than the matching, I think the future looks really bright for them.